Hey, what's going on, traders? Going 3 for 3 today. 2 trades on CSIQ. I am going to go over NEPT today as well. But right after I go over my 2 or 3 trades, I should say, we're going to jump right into this. Wolf being our first trade. This was on earnings, as you can see from the after hours yesterday. And if we zoom in, you can see it made a nice little move up through those previous highs from after hours and pre-market at 105.50 area. Jumped all the way up here through 110, all the way up to 111.50. We ended up shorting this at 110.37. Obviously, looking for this to come down and retest that 105 area. Probably should have held on looking for that. But I had stuck this order out a while ago while we were in CSIQ, but was looking for 115 area for an ad. Obviously, never got up there, so decided to go ahead and just leave it where it was. And it did come out, gave us a small little win. Could have obviously held on looking for that 105.50 retest. It did come down and retest it. So decent trade there on Wolf, considering we didn't get any ads. CSIQ, this was 2 separate trades. If we zoom out, you can see previous highs from pre-market, which this apparently was also on earnings. Made a move up to, what is this, 44.65. We got short at 44.21. Comes down to 43.61. We actually took it off at 43.62. Pretty good. I think we actually put that order out. So for once, we actually had an order that was 1 cent above where it stopped instead of 1 cent below it. Decided to go right back up after that. We decided to restart this when it made a nice little extension through that previous high. Started here at 45.67, decided to keep going. Got to add in here at 46.73. Basically, if you notice, I was just going 1 point. Usually I'll do every $0.50, but something with bigger range, I'll go for a point. And something on Wolf, you saw it had even bigger range. I was looking to go every 5 points. So there's always going to be a system to how I add based on the range. But I'm always looking for that 20 cents through key areas as well. So you can see I was right around 70, which is 20 cents through 50. And then this one was at 73, which is also 20 cents through that 70 area. So always trying to keep it near key areas just in case that does happen to be the top. It decides to keep going a little bit higher. Do not get an add. As you can see, look, it only made it to 47.70. I was looking for it to at least try to go up through 70, but it never quite got there. So we didn't get another add. It did make a big flush down right after that. This was all like one shot, and then it started to get bought back up. Once it tried and couldn't go any higher, added on the way back down, looking to just get some shares, risking high of day at this point. Comes down, take most of it off. As you can see, we were looking for the rest down here towards that 44.80 area and didn't quite get it. So we ended up taking it off here at 45.32. It was good enough for me. And that was our 3 trades. So NEPT, we didn't trade this because we didn't have shares. I believe we would have 100% traded this. It was volume out of nowhere, went into a halt, and out of this halt is definitely where I would have started it. Now, I was watching this live and I was kind of giving ideas of where I would be starting it and where I would be adding. And it was the same kind of thing, right? We're looking for those key areas, $2 being the whole dollar, would be looking for that 220 plus area. This got to 237. And I told myself, even if I get in this at 225, I would have been fine with that, looking for at least the 2 retest and hopefully the breakdown to come back down to around that 180 area. However, that doesn't happen. We get up to 280, most likely going to be adding here. Even if we say we only get 270, I'm still going to be getting an add in here somewhere. Looking for the pullback here. We don't get it. We only end up with 1 red bar here over the course of 4 minutes, and it decides to go higher. So for me, a lot of people would ask, would you be cutting at high of day here? Well, no, because the way that I'm trading now, the old way I was trading possibly, because I'm not looking to get too heavy and allow this thing to keep doing exactly this on the front side, and then I get, max sauced. But since it was pretty quick, came right back up to the highs, and there was no actual pullback yet, I'm looking to get to that pullback, which obviously in hindsight, we can see the pullback is right here, the real pullback, the one with multiple red candles, the one where it actually attempts to come down lower. That's the pullback I'm looking for in these moves. How many times have you seen me trade the front side only to get stopped out on something like this, only for it to make a move like this and then come back down and fail the rest of the day, which you can see that's kind of what it started to do. So if we zoom back in real quick, as it comes up higher, I would then be looking to add up through 3. So I believe this actually tried to halt. I think that's why it ran into this 325. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I don't quite remember, but obviously going to be looking to add up through that 320. So now we got a 1, a 1, and then this would be a 2. And I went back and checked my shares. So it would have been 60, 60, and then 120. So we'd have a total of 240 shares here. And then as it starts to come sideways, it still tries to go higher, right? Still no real pullback. So I'm still in this trade, 240 shares. However, this does fake out and starts to come lower. Then we make a decent move down, comes back up to this 333 and rejects, right? So now I'm considering this the backside, right? We made a high, came down lower, tried to go higher again, failed, and start to come lower. So this is where I'm getting an add for 120 again. So it's going to be a 1, a 1, a 2, and a 2. And I did the math earlier. And if I would have, and again, when I did this math, I actually gave myself way worse fills than I would have probably got, just to be realistic. And my average came out to be about 297 and some change. It was like 297 point whatever. So now we would have 360 shares sitting at a 297 average. And I told myself the reason I had drawn this line, because it was that previous high, the odds are if we do get a little bit of a flush down, it's going to probably go right to there and try to bounce. So the odds are I would take at least 75+% of my position off on this drop. And I told myself if I would have just taken the whole thing at 285 instead of 283, right? Again, just trying to be realistic here, that I would have made $45. That's what the math would have came out to be. I would have made $45, which would have been pretty nice, right? That would have put us at around 80 bucks for the day. So that would have been a nice trade. If it would have went to high a day and we stopped out a cent above high of day and with no slippage, it would have been $175, $180 loss. So that is good, right? I was able to hold into the actual pullback. And if for some reason this wants to fail and go back to the highs, then so be it. It wasn't meant to be. It tried to pull back, it consolidated and went higher. Now, if it's a fake out after that point, that sucks. Like there's really nothing I can do about it. If I want to try to jump back in and use that new high, if it looks like a fake out breakout, that's something I've been toying around with as well. But there's going to be a time where that does happen, but it hasn't happened yet because I've been able to get to that point. And usually when you get to this point, the odds are, and again, if this would have came up and faked out, I'm still in the trade, right? I'm not jumping out at high of day here because it still hasn't proven that it had an actual pullback yet, right? An actual move that tried to go lower. And that's the whole point of the way that I'm trading now, is to try to get to that point, right? If I can stay in long enough, keep my average up decent to where we finally get that pullback, the odds are I'm always going to end up in an okay trade. Is there going to be an outlier eventually that just looks like this all the way up? I don't know, maybe, but I'm hoping the fact that I'm starting these trades the way that I am and spacing out my ads as much as I am and being consistent with it, that we can withstand those and get to the point where we get the actual pullback. I mean, CSIQ was a perfect example of this. If you really look at it, it kind of did the same thing NEPT did, except we had two separate trades here, right? It wasn't a real pullback here. Had we not got this cover and we were still in this, we would have been doing the same exact thing, right? We would have been looking for an ad where we basically made this entry, and then we would have been looking for another ad up here, and we would have got to the actual pullback, which I would assume with a 112, our average is up here somewhere, we would have been perfectly fine. So that's the goal with this new strat, is to, if we get in something and we don't quite get that pullback right away, is to get to it, right? And these backside ads are becoming so much clearer to me, where you get a big stuff and it tries to get back up there, just can't. And at that point, I'm basically telling myself, if it goes back to the highs, then awesome. This thing's obviously pretty strong after a big dump like that. And if it wants to go back up, then I'm just going to cut it and be done with it. But the cool thing about the losses that I'm taking when I cut these, they're not huge. They're so minute to the losses I was taking, where if I was sizing into these with my normal size, trying to make what I was making on, if it just dropped, if right now I'm making like $8 to $10 if it just drops, like if it just works. But when I was trying to make 35, that would mean I'd have to have 3 times the size, right? Well, if I have 3 times the size on something like this and it just keeps grinding me, then it's not going to work. On NEPT, I actually did the math. If I would have took full size on this move when it happened, I would have been down $705 or something at the top versus that 175 that it would have been today. And the way that I was trading, I probably take a lot off at break even if I'm that heavy. So I don't even have to, it's a mental thing. Everything just works out better this way. It's really shining some light on things for me, and I love it. And hopefully it just keeps continuing to work moving forward. And we'll see how it does go moving forward, because we're going to keep doing it. But that's all I got. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I always appreciate the support. Hopefully I gave you a little insight to how everything's going with how I'm trading and stuff like that. If you're interested in that, you can always find me on Discord or on Twitter. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.